at 11, saying goodbye to an Oregon icon.
Hi, I'm Gert Boyle, Chairman of Columbia Sportswear.
Also known as
is the toughest mother of them all. Mother Gert Boyle.
Columbia Sportswear announcing tonight they've lost their famously defiant matriarch.
Men, when they get to be older, really don't like to take advice from a woman.
A tireless woman who made us laugh.
And if a little old lady like I can do that, just think what those young people can do with their lives.
And made us work.
Some of these people ought to step up to the plate and finish it off.
Tonight, we look back at the incredible life and lasting legacy of Gert Boyle.
I don't take myself very seriously.
Yeah.
You know?
Everybody else takes you seriously, though.
Yes, please do.
And good evening. She was the toughest mother of them all, an undeniable powerhouse well into her 90s. Gert Boyle led a fascinating life, fleeing Nazi Germany as a girl, saving Columbia Sportswear from the brink of bankruptcy and turning it into a global brand with earnings in the billions and with famous ads showcasing her feisty personality. We here at KGW met her many times over the years, including back in February when she joined Brenda Braxton for a KGW carpool segment. So we're going to start with an introduction to the Columbia chairwoman known and loved as Ma Boyle.
Have you softened at all?
No.
Will you?
No.
At 90, will you be softer?
No, maybe fatter, but not softer.
The epitome of pulling no punches.
Men, when they get to be older, really don't like to take advice from a woman.
With killer comedic timing. Gert Boyle has, for decades, been giving women half her age a reason to dream bigger and push harder.
Don't get hung up on the fact that you're a woman. Don't get hung up on the fact that you're green, yellow, black, orange, or whatever. And take responsibility for yourself.
Her public persona skyrocketed in the 80s with this, now infamous ad.
Only one is the toughest mother of them all. Mother Gert Boyle.
More spots followed.
Hi, I'm Gert Boyle, Chairman of Columbia Sportswear. My son Tim, our president.
And keep in mind, these were the commercials propelling Columbia Sportswear to the global powerhouse brand it is now. And Boyle loved poking fun at them.
Whether you laugh at it or not, it's sort of like a bad meal. You'll remember it.
She also loved revealing what it was like to be a woman in her male-dominated field. One story: following her husband's death in the 60s, Boyle took over as Columbia's president, only to find no one took her seriously.
A secretary knew a lot more than I did. Everybody else knew more than I did because I didn't know anything. And I'd say, hey, you know, you got to teach me this. And they'd say, well, we're busy. We don't have time. So I cleaned house.
It's true, she fired everyone. Years later, she was just as blunt. Here, in a KGW carpool segment that aired in February.
Did you have any moments coming up through the ranks where you were, like, harassed?
Oh, I mean, we have a bunch of chauvinists that work for Columbia.
Brenda Braxton asked if she was allowed to say that.
Will that not
Yes.
get you into trouble?
How can I get into trouble?
Yeah, who's going to get you into trouble? Nobody.
It's worth noting Boyle was still working when we shot that piece. Retirement wasn't for her.
And if a little old lady like I can do that, just think what those young people can do with their lives.
Columbia Sportswear tonight honoring Boyle's business savvy, sharp wit, and wisdom as they announce their tireless matriarch has passed away at the age of 95.
You're very intentional about the way you move through life, it sounds like to me. And you choose to concentrate on the positive.
You better,
Yeah.
because there are so many negatives out there that would do you in if you thought about them all the time.
I just love her. Obviously, she was such an incredible woman, and her loss is being felt by so many people. So KGW's Lindsay Nadrich joining me now, and you talked to people who knew her about her backstory and about the impact that she had on Oregon.
Yeah, well, she's remembered as an Oregon icon who really shattered the glass ceiling for women in business, faced a lot of discrimination, as you just talked about. Her friends, though, will always remember her sense of humor and her giving spirit.
In the face of adversity, Gert Boyle persevered. At age 13, her family fled Nazi Germany and moved to Portland, Oregon, where her dad founded what was then called Columbia Hat Company in 1938. When her father died, her husband Neil took over. But 6 years later, he died unexpectedly of a heart attack, leaving Gert in charge in 1970.
When she took over, she was a woman CEO in a business where there weren't many women CEOs, a sports apparel business, and she was discriminated against. And there was this famous incident when she picked up her phone and the fellow on the other end said, "I want to speak to the CEO." And she said, "Speaking?" And he said, "But you're a woman." And she said, "I noticed that when I got up this morning."
Her quick wit is something Carrie Timchuk remembers fondly. He helped write her autobiography and formed a lasting friendship.
It's Gert's story, One Tough Mother, her autobiography, and how she success in life, business, and apple pies.
Carrie says Gert wasn't much of a cook, but she was every bit as tough as the ad campaign would lead you to believe.
Only one is the toughest mother of them all.
After running Columbia Sportswear for a year, things weren't going well, and she was told to sell it. But when the buyer tried to nickel and dime her at the last minute, she pulled the deal.
And Gert got her dander up, and she said, "There's the door." And she figured out that she was going to make about $1,500 from the sale. And she said, I'd rather run it into the ground myself.
So I better get to work before
You're damn right, you better go to work.
Gert and her son Tim turned Columbia into a billion-dollar company.
I had it up to here, and I fired everybody.
But she wasn't just tough in the boardroom. She proved to be tough at home, too.
She was a true Oregon icon, the patron saint of Oregon, as I call her. And perhaps the one incident that really cemented her status in the Oregon Hall of Fame was the famous kidnapping incident of several years ago.
In 2010, Gert survived a terrifying home invasion. 3 men planned to kidnap her from her Westland home and hold her for ransom. But Gert outwitted them by hitting a panic alarm on her security system. Officers found her hurt and tied up.
It could have turned out so much worse, but a very scary incident. And at the end of the evening, the Westland police chief came to see her and said, "Mrs. Boyle, how are you?" And she looked at him and she said, "I was doing just fine until you came in with that North Face jacket on." I mean, the ability and the spirit and to do that after that day, that captures Gert Boyle.
Philanthropist is another word many would say captures her as well. She donated the royalties from her autobiography to Special Olympics and CASA, an organization that helps abused and neglected children. She also gave $100 million to the Night Cancer Institute at OHSU. We spoke with Brian Drucker, the director of the institute, about the donation then. Today, he says he still remembers her kindness, directness, and wicked sense of humor. In a statement, he pledged to honor her generosity and legacy, and said when Gert gave her $100 million gift during the Night Cancer Challenge, she said that what she did was not any more remarkable than what others did, with lemonade stands or bake sales. She gave what she could. OHSU also released a statement calling her an Oregon icon and a national treasure. It reads in part, "Gert Boyle forever will be one of the driving forces behind our efforts to end cancer as we know it. Oregon has lost one of its most inspiring and extraordinary citizens." And who better to share one of her inspiring mantras than the woman herself?
It's life, and you can't live in the past. Yesterday is never going to come around again, so you better enjoy today. And if you didn't do it right today, you better do better tomorrow.
And that's how she lived life.
Well, to give you another idea of her sense of humor, when she moved into a retirement community, she said the one thing wrong with it was that everyone there was too old. Even in her 90s, I'm told she went to work every day up until the last few months. Back to you.
Oh, she's so amazing. Lindsay, thank you so much. And no surprise, a lot of you are sending your condolences on social media right now and sharing memories about Gert. Case in point, Susan says, I met her and she's a total hoot. I love her so much. My husband, Mark, and I will miss her. Gary wrote, sad day for the Columbia family. I feel fortunate to have known her. The inspiration and passion she established will last for many years to come. Amy says, rest in peace, one tough mother. You will be truly missed. And Judy writes, she was quite a lady. The world is diminished by her passing. Much admired and appreciated. Rest well, Miss Gert. And we have so much more on Gert's life and legacy online. And that includes, as you can see, an entire playlist of the many features and stories that we did on her over the years. They go back decades. Look out for that on our KGW YouTube channel. And you can also find so much more, as always, at kgw.com and on our social media pages. All right, switching gears, new information on a tragic story out of Troutdale. Authorities say last night a train hit and killed a teenager near a bridge. They say the 17-year-old was there taking senior pictures along the tracks. Authorities urge people not to take photos on or near the tracks. We're still waiting on more details on this. Police have not identified the teenager yet. We'll let you know if we hear more. Well, today, President Trump threatened to withhold federal funding for California as part of an ongoing wildfire feud with Governor Gavin Newsom. The president actually blasted Newsom's forest management, citing it as a reason for the state's wildfire problems. Newsom responded, saying the president shouldn't be a part of this conversation because he, quote, doesn't believe in climate change. And today, firefighters from Portland who had been helping with the battle in California returned home. They took on the Kincaid fire, which has burned 77,000 acres north of San Francisco.
When it comes down to these type of disasters, not only is it a really small fire community where we help each other out, but the communities that are touched by this disaster, it becomes a much smaller state. United States, and we come together to help each other out.
That's good to hear. So the strike team we want to mention included firefighters from Portland Fire, Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue, Corbett Fire, and Port of Portland Fire.